Good evening, everyone. My name is Kenda Polio. I will be the facilitator this evening. You are attending the Copper Rays Solar Project Public Information Forum. Let's go ahead and get started. We do see people joining, but we'll go ahead and first start by going over the agenda for tonight and the meeting format. This meeting will run from 6 to 8 p.m. We may be able to get through the question and answers and public input a bit earlier, but we will keep the project live and we will be on this webinar for the full 2 hours. Let's go over the agenda. First, the BLM field manager will provide an introduction for the meeting. Next, we'll have a presentation about the project and the BLM process. We will then have a question and answer section, as well as a public input section. I'll explain this in a couple slides to give everyone details about how to join both. Finally, we'll close out the meeting. Let's go ahead and get started by having Nicholas, the BLM field manager, make an introduction.
Yeah, thank you, Kenna. Good evening, everyone. As Kenna noted, I'm Nicholas Pay. I'm the field manager for the Bureau of Land Management's Pahrump field office in the Southern Nevada District. Wanted to thank you all for attending tonight's meeting. This meeting is part of a series of meetings that's been designed to gather information from local, state, federal, and tribal governments, as well as general citizens in the area that could be affected by this project. Tonight's meeting will focus on you guys as public land users, and the information gathered during these meetings will be used to evaluate the appropriateness of the proposed Copper Rays solar project. Please keep in mind that our regulations require that we review each application submitted to the BLM and evaluate that application on its own merit. Tonight's meeting is specifically for the purpose of evaluating the application for the proposed Copper Rays solar project. As you develop your thoughts and concerns that you would like to share, I respectfully ask that you would focus those comments on this project. There will be other opportunities for you to comment on other projects at other times. As we begin, I would like to introduce a few individuals that will be leading tonight's meeting. First is Whitney Worthland. She's the BLM project manager assigned to this project and will be presenting the information on the project and where we are in the process. Second, Kenda Polio, who you've already heard from, is the principal from KP Environmental, and she will be moderating the question and answer session as well as the public input session. You'll also see on the screen a list of BLM specialists who are working behind the scenes. This team has been working hard to develop the content for this meeting and will continue to work behind the scenes to keep this meeting productive and to answer your questions. I want to publicly thank them for all the work that they've done in getting us up to this point and all the meetings that they'll do during and after. It's a great group of people to be working with. So with that, Kenda, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. Tonight's meeting will provide opportunities to ask questions and provide public input. So let's go over the question and answer portion. Written questions can be submitted throughout the meeting as you think of them. You can submit the questions in writing through the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Please submit only one question at a time in the Q&A function, so that will ensure that we answer each individual question. We will be responding to questions in writing and will also respond to the ones that we can and have time for verbally. After the Q&A portion, we will move into the verbal public input section. Once we move into this section, we will not be answering questions verbally, but instead we will be taking public input. We'll be taking that public input as people have pre-registered and said yes or maybe to wanting to provide public comment. We'll then move to anyone that may want to provide input that did not identify at the time of registration. So we'll go through those that pre-registered. We'll then ask for anybody that did not pre-register. And then if there are additional people that would like to comment again, if we have time, we will go ahead and use the raise the hand feature and take those in order as we see them. Again, remind, we are not going to be responding to questions during the public comment. So if you have a question, you can put it in the Q&A box and we will be responding to it in writing. I do see some questions are already starting to come in. So again, you can start asking questions now. And again, we will be responding to those in writing as we receive those. We'll also try to get to those verbally. But again, you have between now and 8 o'clock to go ahead and submit those questions. If you think of other comments or questions after the meeting, you can also email or mail in comments to the BLM. The website, the BLM website for the project is posted in the chat. So there is also a chat feature at the bottom of the screen, and you will see links as we go through the evening so you can get information about the BLM website. And on the website is this email address and mailing address. Public comment closes on January 7th, 2022. So just be a reminder of that date. I also want to note that everyone's comment is very important to us, and this all will be on the public record. We also are going to be doing a videotaping and recording this, and that will also be posted, and there will be a link on the BLM website. So again, those BLM websites and the websites we talk about throughout the meeting will be in that chat. So you can go there and cut and paste them into your browser. Okay, with that, let's go ahead and get started with the presentation, and I will turn it over to Whitney.
Thank you, Kenda. Good evening, everyone. On the screen, you will see a map of the proposed solar projects within the Pahrump Valley the BLM is currently processing in relation to the town of Pahrump and the Nevada-California state line. The Copper Ray Solar Project, highlighted in the map in blue striping, is the project we are discussing tonight. Two other projects, the Rough Hat Clark County project in purple and the Rough Hat Nye County Solar Project in red, will have individual public information forums. The Rough Hat Clark County project public information forums were held December 8th and 9th, and the recordings are available at the project website, which we'll include a link for in the chat. Also on the screen, you will see the location of the approved Yellow Pine Solar Project, shown in yellow, which was authorized with a record of decision in fall 2020. Copper Ray Solar LLC has submitted a right-of-way application for the Copper Ray Solar Project to utilize public land in Nye County for the construction, operation, and eventual decommissioning of a proposed solar facility and interconnection to the regional transmission system. The Copper Ray Solar Project request includes approximately 5,127 acres of BLM administered lands within the Pahrump Valley, southeast of the town of Pahrump and 40 miles west of Las Vegas. The project proposal is a 700 megawatt solar photovoltaic power generating facility with battery storage on site. The photovoltaic modules installed on site would convert sunlight to direct current electricity, which is then collected and converted into alternating current electricity through a system of inverters. The on-site transformers would step up the alternating current electricity and deliver it to a proposed on-site substation. Once the electricity reaches the on-site substation, it is delivered off-site to the existing Game Bird substation via new generation tie lines. In addition, battery storage facilities would be constructed on site. The preliminary plan of development for the proposed project is available online at the project website, which we'll provide a link for in the chat. The map on the screen shows the proposed Copper Ray Solar Project as the red rectangle in the middle of the map, adjacent to the Clark-Nye County line. Copper Ray Solar LLC has proposed alternate generation tie lines for the project. Those alternates can be seen on the map as the yellow, blue, and orange dashed lines. The proposed generation tie lines run north and west of the project to the existing Game Bird substation northwest of the project area. Existing transmission lines and infrastructure would be utilized to transmit the electricity to the grid. This map shows the location of the proposed Copper Ray Solar Project in relation to local roads and streets within the Pahrump area, including Tacoma Springs Road, Brown Springs Road, Homestead Road, and Hafen Ranch Road. On the screen, you will see a flow chart outlining the application evaluation process for the Copper Rays Solar Project. The application evaluation process begins with the submittal of a solar project application. The application is then prioritized based on the regulations and involves interdisciplinary team review. This helps the BLM prioritize and process the solar application workload more efficiently. Those applications determined to be high priorities move into the solar application evaluation process. The application evaluation process involves public information forums and agency coordination. When the evaluation is complete, the BLM will determine whether to continue to process the application. If the BLM determines to continue processing, that is when the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA, process would initiate, which includes environmental review, analysis, and public involvement. The public information forums for the Copper Rays project are part of the early stages of the solar application evaluation process. The BLM Southern Nevada District developed a prioritization process for solar project applications that focuses prioritizing applications with the fewest known resource conflicts for continued processing. The Southern Nevada District utilized this process to prioritize the 26 current applications and continues to use it as more applications are filed. In August 2020, the Copper Rays Solar Project was determined to be a high priority project due to low resource conflicts. In 2012, the BLM and Department of Energy issued the final programmatic environmental impact statement for solar energy development in 6 southwestern states. This document provided information to improve efficiency and created processes to standardize the review of solar applications in a more environmentally responsible manner. The Copper Rays Solar Project application was submitted prior to October 28, 2011, which was the publication date for a supplemental document to the draft solar PEIS. As such, the Copper Rays Solar Project was considered a pending application under the solar PEIS. Therefore, the application is not subject to the decisions adopted by the document, and it is not subject to the variance process, although it is located in a variance area. The Waterway Regulations provide direction on renewable energy development applications on public lands. Applications for utility-scale solar energy projects are evaluated on a case-by-case basis based on the environmental considerations, public input, and coordination with federal, state, and local government agencies and tribes. Information provided by those parties, as well as the applicant, can be utilized when evaluating the appropriateness of an application. Currently, we are still in the early stages of processing the Copper Rays Solar Project application. Tonight's public information forum and the public input period that lasts until January 7th, 2022, provides you an opportunity to have input on the Copper Rays Solar Project. The information gathered during the meeting and the input period will inform the application evaluation process and assist BLM in making a determination on whether to continue to process the application and begin NEPA. The application evaluation process is separate from the NEPA process and comes before. After the public information forums have concluded, we will continue to gather public input on the project until January 7th, 2022. The information we gather will be reviewed by the BLM authorized officer, who will make the determination on whether the project will move forward to the NEPA process. The determination on the Copper Rays Solar Project is anticipated in early 2022. Helpful input and information from you would include potential local concerns, opportunities, and barriers related to the proposed project. We would also appreciate input about the types of use within the proposed project area or resource concerns. Some examples could include types of recreational activities and opportunities that are conducted within the project area, resource concerns for wildlife, vegetation, visual resources, and any other local factors. Now I'll turn the meeting back over to Kenda, who will begin the question and answer session.
Thank you, Whitney. Okay, as Whitney mentioned, let's go ahead and move into the Q&A portion. We've seen a number of questions come in, so this is a very good start. So thank you very much. But we'll go ahead and explain for those that have not submitted questions how to do so. So there is a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. You can click the Q&A. You can see on our screen what that looks like. There's a box where you type your question, and then you can hit the send button, and that submits your question. As I mentioned, we will read questions and responses aloud. We'll try to get to as many as we can, but with so many questions coming in, we will also be responding to questions in writing. So please check your Q&A box, and you'll see that a lot of those questions have been responded to. So we will do that first. Again, a reminder that we will ask that you submit one question at a time in the box. So when you hit send, it's just one question. And also a reminder that as we move into the public input section, if you do have a question, you will need to go ahead and put that in the Q&A section. We will be going back to the Q&A. We will be using the Q&A up until 8 p.m. There is also, if we do not get through all the questions by 8 p.m., we will still be responding via email to the email that you used during registration. So please be advised that we will be doing that. Again, we have seems like a very good group and a lot of questions coming in. So it looks like good participation this evening. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So Whitney, as I mentioned, a lot of questions have come in. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me pull these up and see which ones we have so far. Okay, here's one. Whitney, the question is, why Pahrump?
The applicant, Copper Ray Solar LLC, identified and applied for the proposed project site. BLM is currently considering the appropriateness of that application, utilizing the application evaluation process that we discussed previously as identified in the right-of-way regulations. These current public input meetings and the public input period are a critical piece to that application evaluation process and will inform BLM's decision on whether to continue to process the application.
Very good. Thank you, Whitney. Okay. And I also will remind, we do have a lot of questions coming in, so we are making sure that we're getting them organized and we're getting them all answered. So between them, bear with us. There are some pauses, and I just want to let everyone know that we are moving as quickly as we can. Okay, Whitney, here's another one. What does it mean that Copper Rays is not a variance land? Can you explain variance land?
Sure. The solar PEIS identified solar energy zones and designated leasing areas, in addition to also providing for applications to be considered in variance areas. For projects in variance areas and subject to the variance process, the BLM would consider additional applicable variance factors described in the solar PEIS. Some of those factors can include documentation about the proposed project related to land use plan documents, existing facilities, environmental resources such as fish and wildlife habitat, visual resource management, hydrologic resources, access and recreational opportunities, and applicant coordination with state and local governments for the permitting process. So the Copper Ray Solar project was considered a pending application under the solar PEIS. The application for Copper Ray's solar project was submitted prior to October 28th, 2011. As such, applications submitted prior to that publication of the supplemental draft solar PEIS would not be subject to any decisions adopted by the solar PEIS record of decision. The Copper Ray's application is therefore not subject to the variance process and requirements of the solar PEIS.
Great, thank you. Okay, we have another question that just came in. Okay, Whitney, who is the developer behind the Copper Rays solar project?
So the applicant for the solar project is Copper Ray Solar LLC. So that is who has come forward with the application and has applied.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Okay, a question about a substation. Whitney, how close will the new power lines to the Game Bird substation be to private residents?
The proposed power lines or transmission lines that would run north and west of the project area would stay within existing corridors along State Route 160, and then would branch up to the Game Bird substation. More details on the location of those in relation to other areas throughout the Pahrump area can be found at the preliminary plan of development, which we have included on the project website, and we can put a link for that in the chat.
Okay, great, thank you. So as Whitney just mentioned, I'll remind everyone, there is links in that chat box. So the chat box at the bottom of your screen, if you click on that, you will see the links that we've been referring to throughout the evening. So just another reminder about that. Okay, Whitney, one question is about, let's see, it's a low resource conflict question. And the way the question is framed is, are you calling the destruction of over 5,000 Mojave yuccas a low resource conflict?
The Copper Rays Project Prioritization Determination Worksheet, which is part of the prioritization process of the Southern Nevada District, provides details on the resources considered in making the determination, and that can be posted on the project website.
Great. Okay. Okay, here's a question about Joshua trees. The question is, how many Joshua trees are there on the proposed project site?
We estimate that approximately 49,000 cacti and yucca within the entire survey area, including an estimated 38,000 estimated in the project site itself, and then 11,000 within the generation tie line. The predominant species found within the site are Mojave yucca, Joshua trees, pencil cholla, golden cholla, hedgehog cactus, cottontail cactus, and beavertail cactus. Specific estimates of each species within the project area are not available at this time, as botanical surveys are ongoing and the reports have not been finalized.
Great, thank you. Okay. Okay, Whitney. The question is about the business entity. So it says, under the business entity, what is the business listed as?
So the project sponsor is the Copper Rays Solar LLC. Information about Copper Rays Solar LLC as a Nevada business can be found on the Nevada Secretary of State website, and we can provide that link in the chat as well.
Thank you, Whitney. Okay. Okay, we have lots of questions coming in. So again, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but do bear with us because it is a lot of questions coming in, which is a very good thing that we definitely want to hear from everyone. But you have to bear with us as we get through them and we make sure that we're taking these. Okay, what elements is the BLM aware of that could be present in the dust associated with the Copper Rays Solar Project?
Sorry, I was having mute issues there. So we're in the early stage of the process with the application evaluation determination. If the project receives a favorable application evaluation determination, as part of the environmental review or the NEPA process, potential impacts on soil disturbance and air quality, including potential mitigation measures as needed, would be evaluated at that time.
Okay, Whitney, next question is, where is the energy collected being used?
The project sponsor, Copper Ray Solar LLC, has indicated that a purchaser for the power proposed to be generated from the project has not yet been identified. The Copper Ray Solar project proposes to interconnect to the Gamebird substation, which would allow power to be provided to the California Independent System Operator and Valley Electric Association systems. The Copper Rays Solar LLC proposed plan of development for the project is, preliminary plan of development is posted on our website as well for more information.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is, Whitney, if this project goes through, how will BLM and the project mitigate recreation loss?
So members of the Copper Ray Solar project team and Copper Ray Solar LLC have constructed several projects in Nevada and in the desert region of Southern California. The BLM is currently requesting information about potential impacts to public access and recreation within and adjacent to the proposed site. Helpful information to submit at this time could include local knowledge of trails and routes within the project area and impacts to recreational experience on the trails. If the project receives a favorable application evaluation determination as part of the environmental review or the NEPA process, potential impacts on trails and recreation, including potential mitigation measures as needed, would be evaluated. For past projects, such measures have included changes to the proposed project layout to preserve trail segments and maintain access to specific recreational resources.
Thank you, Whitney. I do want to make one note. I did, when I was asking a question, I asked a question and misspoke. I said 5,000 yuccas, and the question actually had 50,000 yuccas was in the question. So I do see that came back through the question and answer. So I did want to clarify that. And I do appreciate that question coming back in. So thank you. Okay, so just again, for the record, I want to make sure the record is clear. Okay, there's another question, Whitney. Is there a detailed map showing street names?
The map I showed earlier or was displayed earlier on screen, it will be available. We will update our map packet to include that map for Copper Rays. We also provided a similar map in our updated map packet for the Rough Hat Clark County project from the meetings we had last week. So both of those packets are available at those project websites.
Great, thank you. Okay. Again, lots of questions coming in, so this is very good. Okay, Whitney. The next one is a question about water source, and it really is, what is the water source that will be used?
Copper Ray Solar LLC has stated in their preliminary plan of development that the most probable source of construction and operations phase water from the proposed project would be water leased or purchased from either a public or private entity utilizing existing water rights, either within the Pahrump Valley Basin or trucked from the Las Vegas area. The project does not anticipate drilling any new water wells. The Nevada Division of Water Resources is responsible for the allocation of water resources within the state of Nevada. If the project does receive a favorable application evaluation determination, the BLM will consider impacts from water use during the environmental review or the NEPA process. BLM considers water, both surface and groundwater, within the broader context of all resources on BLM administered lands and their interaction as they relate to BLM responsibilities.
Thank you, Whitney. Okay, we're going to take a brief pause because again, we have a lot of questions coming in and we're just gathering them, making sure that we've gotten the verbal ones answered. And we're moving on. I think there's a number of questions that are also being responded to in writing. So I will remind everyone to look at those Q&A because there's a lot of them that have been responded to in writing. So the other thing I know that sometimes there may be duplicate questions. So we will refer back to questions that if we've already answered it, we will refer back to the Q&A and let you know that they were answered in the Q&A. You should be able to see those if they were in writing. So just wanted to also point that out, kind of how the Q&A operates. You should be able to see those. And I will go ahead and just take a brief pause if you give us a minute, and I will be joining you just very shortly. Okay, so again, want to just remind everyone about process. We are also looking at time. We do have a number of commenters that signed up. So just trying to make sure that we do allocate time on the back end. I will get into more detail, but the public comment session, there is about, we are having a clock, a timer. And we're asking that everyone keep their comments to 2 minutes. So with the number of commenters that have pre-registered, we know that we have, we just want to make sure we have time. We want to also give time to people that may not have pre-registered. So we're just also making sure that we're allocating time and have all that worked out. So again, give us one brief second. Okay, Whitney, I do have one for you. I was advised by a past recreation planner to remove routes within this project area for both cultural and biological concerns, or my permit would not be approved. These were existing 24-inch wide motorcycle trails. How can this project dodge those concerns? Or have these concerns gone away, and can you explain?
So if the project receives a favorable application evaluation determination, and we continue processing through the environmental review process, specific impacts from the project, both within and adjacent to the project area, would be analyzed and reviewed at that time.
Thank you, Whitney. Okay, Whitney, one question was, how old can the Mojave Yucca be, in the opinion of BLM scientists?
Mojave Yucca can be as old as 100 to 150 years old. Some can likely live longer, but this is dependent on environmental factors and their habitat.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have another one. How can you have already determined low or high priority status when you have not yet finished resource surveys?
The prioritization process, in accordance with the regulations, is intended to prioritize applications for processing very early in the process based on known resource conflicts. If the application receives a favorable application evaluation determination, it would proceed into environmental review and the NEPA process, and a detailed analysis based on resource surveys would be conducted.
Okay, there was another part to that question, and that was how many rare Parish Club Chola cactus are found on the site, and is this considered a sensitive species?
We do not have a number for those cacti that are found on site at this time, but we can email that comment to our email address, and then we can do some research on that.
Great, thank you. So I think that's a good point too, that some of the questions we will also be having to get back to the person that asked via email. Some of them are very detailed. And again, I want to thank everyone for the detailed questions. Those are very detailed. We're trying to get to every question, but there are questions that do involve other resource staff that may not be on the call, or may, as Whitney said, need to get back with specific information. So thank you all very much. And again, the questions are coming in very rapidly, so we appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to go off screen for 1 minute and I will be right back. Okay, I know that we are also going through and getting a lot of questions typed in, because we do want to leave time for the public comment portion. So I just wanted to remind everyone that, we are making sure that we have that enough time for that, because we do want to make sure we get to public comment. It's a very, very important part of our evening and very important part of the public record. But let's go ahead and take a few more. We'll go for another maybe 9 or 10 minutes and see how many we can get through. Okay, Whitney, do you know what country is going to supply Copper Ray the solar panels?
The project sponsor, Copper Ray Solar LLC, has indicated that a supplier for the solar panels has not yet been identified. It is very early in the consideration of the Copper Ray Solar project. In most cases, procurement of solar panels would not occur until a project has been approved.
Thank you, Whitney. Okay. Let's see, Whitney. Since Pahrump is not using the energy produced, what is the benefit of this project to our town?
So the project sponsor, Copper Ray Solar LLC, has indicated that a purchaser for the power proposed to be generated from the project has not yet been identified. The project proposes to interconnect with the Game Bird substation that would allow for power to be provided to the California Independent System Operator and Valley Electric Systems.
Thank you, Whitney. Okay, I think I've seen some questions, and I have one here on Desert Tortoise. So let's go ahead and get to that one. So the question starts with the person is saying that it is proven that many desert tortoise do not survive relocation. Do you see that as a problem since they are a protected species?
The BLM and Fish and Wildlife Service work in coordination to reduce impacts to desert tortoise from translocation. Measures to reduce impacts from translocation could include post-construction monitoring for 12 months, health assessments, and treatment if needed. Specific measures would be developed in a desert tortoise translocation plan during the environmental review process.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So I'm going to remind everyone, we're going to take another few questions. There are a number of questions that are going to be, I know we're in the process of answering them. As I mentioned, we do want to make sure that we have time for public comment, and everyone that wishes to speak can be on the public record or the project record. I apologize. Couple reminders. The chat feature does have a number of the links that we've been talking about. I do see that some additional people have joined, so I just want to, as people have joined, I want to make sure that we're kind of allowing everyone to understand where we are in this meeting. So again, welcome to those that have joined a little late. We appreciate you joining. We have a very good group. We have a lot of questions that have been asked. If you joined and you have a question, the Q&A function is at the bottom of your screen. So you can click that Q&A function. There is a place for you to type your question. You can hit send. We ask that you only ask one question at a time so we can ensure that we are getting to all those questions. We have a lot of questions coming in, and again, we will be spending time answering those questions as we type those in. We will be doing that because we will be moving on in a couple minutes to the public comment portion. So that will be when people that have pre-registered will be called out and you will be able to speak. And then once we get through the pre-registered speakers, we will see if anyone else wishes to speak that may not have pre-registered. If you do want to have another chance at public comment, if we have that time available, we will then ask for anybody that would like to speak again. I'll go over this again in a minute, but just wanted to make sure those that have joined throughout the Q&A portion do know that that's kind of where we are and what's going on. Okay. I see that we're getting close to needing to move on, but we're going to see if there's maybe we can get to one more question. Give me 1 minute and I will be right back. Okay, Whitney. Let's see, where did that go? I apologize. Okay, here it is. What would BLM ask the construction crew to do in order to mitigate the dust hazard?
Design features identified during the environmental review or the NEPA process could include health and safety programs to address reducing dust exposure. If the project receives a favorable application evaluation determination, risk related to dust hazards would be analyzed and mitigations would be developed during the NEPA process.
Thank you, Whitney. Okay, Whitney, I think we have a couple more minutes. So here's one. Since there is a high density of projects that are side by side, does each project consider the others in the pre-application process?
Although the proposed projects are located in a similar area, BLM received individual applications for these 3 standalone projects. Each has potential site-specific resource concerns. Since the applications are standalone projects, once the application evaluation process is complete, including completion of the public information forms for each project, the BLM will make individual determinations for each application. If a project receives a favorable application evaluation determination, the BLM will continue processing the project and an environmental review will be initiated. Cumulative effects or combined effects of all reasonably foreseeable projects will be analyzed during the environmental review process.
Thank you, Whitney. Okay. I think we're at 6:50. We do want to give everyone ample opportunity to present their public comments. So we'll go ahead and move into that portion. Again, we appreciate everyone's questions. We still see questions coming in. We think this is obviously very good. We will try to we're writing as quickly as we can, and we will continue to do that. So you can continue to put your questions in. A reminder, we have a number of questions that are the same, and sometimes we've answered a question. So we will refer back to questions that we've already answered. So I do want to make sure that everyone is aware that we may reference a response that has already been answered in writing in that Q&A chat feature. So that may be referenced in that feature. So at this point, let's go ahead again, keep checking because we will be continuing to do that. If you have questions during the public comment, a reminder that we will not answer them verbally, but you can go ahead and put that afterwards in the Q&A. And so I will remind you of that as well, I'm sure, a number of times throughout. So again, don't want to sound like a broken record, but just making sure everyone understands the process that we're going through. Okay, let's go on and let's talk about the process for verbal input. Okay, as I've mentioned, input will be accepted in the order of registration online. Once your name is called, use the raise hand feature and the meeting facilitator will open up your mic. If you're on the phone, and do we have any phone people? We have a couple people on the phone. You can raise your hand using *9 and then unmute using *6. A 2-minute timer will be displayed and you will see the time remaining as you speak. Please be cognizant of time. We will not be responding to comments as I've mentioned. So if you do ask a question during your public comment, you will need to ask that in the Q&A function if you would like to see a written answer. We will be answering these in writing. We will get to as many written questions as possible. If we do not get through all of them, we will be sending responses via email. This will all be part of the public record. This is being recorded, so you will be able to go back and see this video. So again, just another reminder there. Let's now go over the guidelines. So you can see on the screen the 2-minute timer. We ask that you respect that 2 minutes. We also ask that you refrain from profanity. If these guidelines are not followed, we will have to mute your microphone, and we do not want to do that. We really cherish the public comments and we want to get public comments. But we want to get through everyone and we want to be respectful of all public commenters. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. I also will ask that bear with me if I do not pronounce your name correctly. I apologize ahead of time. Okay, the first speaker, and this gives me the challenge right away, is on the screen. Rhiannon Scanlon, are you on? If you can use the raise the hand feature. See if we see you. Okay, we do not see that person. And again, if we do go past you, please use the raise the hand feature and we can always go back. Okay, the next person that pre-registered is Carol Swanson. Carol, if you can use the raise the hand feature. Okay, I don't see Carol raising her hand. Okay, the third person, Tamby Calvert. Tamby, if you can use the raise the hand feature. Okay, we do not see Tamby either. Okay, Thomas Masseri, if you can use the raise the hand feature. Okay. Keep going. Don Hertz. Yes. Okay. Susie Hertz. Okay, Susie, I see that you have reused the raise the hand feature. We're going to go ahead and unmic you. We'll start the timer if you want to go ahead. Can you unmic your microphone on your side? You should see it in the, there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your BLM staff today attended the Nye County Commissioners meeting, and volumes of data was given as to why solar development in Pahrump Valley is wrong. It's a bad idea. It's a wrong idea. Just as an example and a comment is that we do not want you to use any of the water within Basin 162. There's not enough for us who live here. There will not be enough if you decide to do these solar projects. Your responsibility as BLM is to manage public lands, lands that belong to the citizens of this county, Clark County, and of this country. We citizens are here to tell you that proper management of the lands in question is to manage and to continue to manage this land as open land for public recreational use in perpetuity. With 56 million acres of land in Nevada, that is what you should be doing, managing all those lands for use by the people. Solar needs should only be used in an area far from human life. Copper Ray and all the related possible projects being entertained for Clark and Nye counties in the same vicinity need to be stopped, to be prevented. No amount of damage to life, wildlife, human life is acceptable. No to these solar projects. Speaking to your process, it seems counterintuitive and a waste of taxpayer dollars to preliminarily approve this project to go all the way down to the NEPA process when you can't answer any of the concrete questions brought forth tonight. This is the cart before the horse. Considering these sorts of projects before you have considered the negative impacts of such projects. Again, it seems irresponsible and behaviors and processes that are costly use of tax dollars. I'm appealing to the bigger picture of BLM and the environmental agency senses of logic to this process. It's backwards.
Thank you. We appreciate your comment and thank you for adhering to the time. Okay, let's move on to Jimmy Lewis. Okay. Are you able to unmute your mic? There you go.
Can you hear me okay?
We can, thank you.
Yeah, I'm in a really spotty location area, but I'll try to make this brief. My biggest concern is to my personally to my business, but on a bigger picture, I feel that putting a lot of these solar projects in is kind of rushed to judgment and bowing to like more political pressures than actual use. And my case in point is, if solar was so effective in our area, it would be on our roofs before we go and mow down desert, close off desert to public access, and really destroy the visual quality in the area I chose to live in. So it's going to affect my recreation. It's going to affect what I see every day. And unfortunately, as vocal as Pahrump has been, I don't think you're going to see the true, outcome of this until you start putting the panels up. And I was really surprised at how yellow pine kind of snuck under the radar. And I see the rush now to get these other projects in motion before we see the visual effects of that, let alone whatever else happens. And that's kind of up for you guys to, do it through the NEPA process and stuff. But I'm adamantly opposed to this. And I think we should make sure that we're doing all the right processes, because it doesn't seem very straightforward to me. It seems rushed and in some ways kind of political. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, and I appreciate you adhering to the time. Okay. The next person is Srikanth Madala. Can you raise your hand? Okay, we do not see that person. Next is Lou Pintarelli. Okay. You should be able, okay, you should have muted your mic. You can go ahead.
Can you guys hear me okay?
We can, thank you.
Like the others, I just wanted to disapprove of this process. We're new to Pahrump, and just recently gotten involved with a lot of these projects that are going on, and it seems like there's not enough information of the benefits versus the destruction of the land, the hurt to the environment, the resources that are going to be used, and things like that. There's not enough information on the benefit that is going to come from a project like this, where it would be something that really should be moved forward. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much for your comment. Okay, the next person is Julia Kedema. Okay, we don't see her, but making sure she's not on the phone. Okay. Okay, Ryan Gallagher. Ryan Gallagher, if you could raise your hand. Yes. If you would like to present a comment, you can raise your hand, use the raise the hand feature. If not, we'll go ahead and move on, and you can always decide that you would like to make a comment and just raise your hand when we get to that point. Okay, we'll move on. Kevin Emerich, I think, Kevin, I saw your name. You should be able to go ahead.
Hello, hi again. I'm going to bring up the same stuff I've been talking about, desert tortoise. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to talk again about the desert tortoise. Just to recap, when you said low conflict, high priority for tortoise, you based that on surveys that took place 31 years ago. That's too long. That has to be done. Fast forward to April, May of 2021, yellow pine tortoise clearance was going on a record-breaking drought year. About the same time, they were doing desert tortoise surveys for copper ray solar on a record-breaking drought year. The numbers are skewed when they look for tortoises in drought years. This should be redone. I've been asking you to redo these surveys. It'll cost some money, but who cares? We need to do that right. The same company hired Newfields. Newfields did tortoise surveys for the Searchlight Wind Project, I think 2012, 2013. In 2015, our organization, Basin and Range Watch, along with others, successfully had a federal judge vacate the right-of-way for the Searchlight Wind Project in the same BLM district based on the fact, partially, because the desert tortoise surveys were not done correctly or accurately. A federal judge did that. That same company did the surveys on a record-breaking drought year for copper ray solar. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, the next person is Shannon Salter. Shannon, I've seen you. Okay, you want to go ahead and unmute? You can go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, yeah, just, also echoing about the desert tortoise at the yellow pine site. Everybody knows what a complete catastrophe that was and what a sad, heartbreaking thing. So like they definitely need to do new tortoise surveys, hands down. But I want to speak to something that somebody said today at the Rough Hat meeting at the Nye County Commissioners meeting. And that was that they were worried about the health of the people that in Pahrump where the project would come close to. And she was referencing the woman, Jeannie, the hot dog Jeannie, who would be totally surrounded by solar. But, I wonder about the effects on mental health of just everybody that lives in Pahrump, and even people that like frequently go to Pahrump from Las Vegas that enjoy getting out of the city, but especially the people that live in Pahrump. The mental health effects of having the desert around them completely destroyed. I mean, talk about like nature being ripped out from under you, but the desert that they love, and even if they don't realize that they love it, just having that open space and nature, we know is good for people's mental health. So to have that destroyed before your eyes, I wonder about the mental health effects on people living in Pahrump. Not to mention the physical health effects, of course. Like I asked a lot of questions that maybe will hopefully be addressed in writing about what is known to the BLM to be in the dust. And then we can also consider everything that's not known, but it's interesting just to see what is known. And yeah, just mostly thinking about the health of the mental health and physical health of everybody that would be surrounded by this catastrophe. Yellow pine is already going to change the valley tremendously. So I think doing any more projects would be a total disaster.
Thank you very much for your comment. Appreciate you watching the clock there. Thank you. Okay, the next person we have is Linda Fay. While we look for Linda, I do want to mention, I know that there are people that are asking to comment, and we will absolutely get to you at the end of this. So we will get there. Okay, Linda Fay, we do not see Linda. Okay, the next one is Joyce. Wait. Apologize. It looks like there's a phone number with their hand raised. We're going to go ahead and. So you can unmute with *6. Are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Can you
can.
hear
Thank
me?
you. Yes.
Okay, awesome. I just wanted to say that I'm really concerned about the environmental impact of all these projects because the desert floor is a very complex organism. And as many before me have said, the impacts have not been studied. This is uncharted territory. So you really need to drill down and do your due diligence before, a project of this scale is legitimized. Because once the damage is done, it won't be easily reversed. And climate change is already so negatively impacting our environment and the desert. The desert plays a great role in climate management. So I don't think we can afford to tamper with that delicate balance right now. So I'm imploring the powers that be to just take a breath, do your diligence, don't rush into anything that you won't be able to reverse, and do further damage to an area that is very instrumental in our climate right now. The high desert is, it's very valuable, and we don't need to tamper with that balance right now. And as others have said, what is the value to Pahrump? I hear they're saying this is energy for California. Also the water resources. There's also many housing developments planned there. Who is thinking about the water resources? No one has control over the weather. We don't know what's going to come in the coming years as far as water resources. So I don't think it's wise to plan any more projects that are going to further deplete water resources and aquifers. That's the end of my statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Okay, we'll go ahead to the next commenter and reset the clock. The next one is Joy Centers. Okay, we see a Joy Centers on. Okay, go ahead and unmute. You can go ahead.
Hi, we don't want this here. It will kill our visual. It will probably make us sick with valley fever at some point. And it's just not a good idea. It's not for this community. It is too close to people, and we just can't have it here.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, the next person is Patricia Robb. Is Patricia Robb on the phone? If you could use the raise the hand feature. Okay. Next one is Ellen Escobar. Is Ellen Escobar on? Okay, we're not seeing Ellen Escobar. Okay, Aleda Alexander.
Good evening.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for hosting this. I have a couple questions. One, who had the bright idea of putting this proposed solar farm so close to a school and close to residential areas? That's my first question. Number two, if Pahrump is not going to benefit from all this solar energy, then why do you think that we want it here? Would you want it in your backyard? Number three, I actually value the desert tortoises. Those were my questions about the desert tortoises. And I would be a criminal if I went out and killed one. But yet your company seems to think that it's just a-okay to kill several hundred. And I don't think that's quite right. Do you want me to continue, ma'am? So in general, this is a bad idea. We'd like you guys to just go away. I have one other question. Who are the shareholders or the stockholders or the business people of this company? Are they actually United States citizens? Because I can tell you Rough Hat LLC is from another country. So what country is Copper Hat from?
So we do appreciate your comments. If you have questions, if you don't mind putting them in the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, you can type those in and we have people that will respond to those in writing. Once we've entered into the public comment portion, which is where we are right now, we are just taking public comments for the record. But again, please feel free to put those questions in that Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Okay. The next person is Joni Hawley. Is Joni on? Okay, you should go ahead and be able to go ahead.
Hi. I just recently moved to the area. I retired, and our whole goal was getting to a community where we could enjoy the natural resources and not be surrounded by huge city. And it was all about quality of life. And I think that these solar projects, not being small solar projects, they're huge. And they're one right next to another, next to another, next to another. So you're talking, you know, anywhere from 10 to 15,000 acres of solar panels. The visual effect, that alone is going to be awful. But there's so many negative impacts to our environment, heat islands, the damage to the plants, the animals, the dust issues, and the one that's so near and dear to all of us is the water issue. I just, you know, these people are here to make money. It's not that they're here to help benefit our community and our people. It's about lining their own pockets. And I just wanted to be on record that I am completely opposed to this. I didn't move here, and I could have gone anywhere in the country, and I chose to come to the desert area of Pahrump, and I would like to keep it the way it is. And I just want to be on record that I oppose this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I do see a couple people, and Aleda, that you've raised your hand. We will go back, and once we get to the end, which is coming here soon, we'll go back and you can provide an additional public comment. So if you can hold tight, we will get back to you if you did have an additional comment. Okay, the next person is Barbara Callahan. Is Barbara Callahan on the phone? Okay.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm very pleased that this is coming before the public. I need to underline and exclamation mark all the comments that have been said. I really can't understand and wrap my mind around the backward process. BLM and Copper Ray is bringing a project to us, wanting us to give our honest opinion, yet you're unable to answer some very important questions for us until, well, let me correct that. You can't answer them until it's approved or further down the line. I just can't wrap my mind around the backward process. The dust and the air pollution has already been proven a real problem with already established solar projects. The one near Boulder City is an example. They prefer to take the fine than to correct the air pollution. There has not been enough study on the large farms to really know what the long-term impact is. I can't understand why we would put so many of the projects on top of and with me 1,000 feet from my property. I'm a born and raised third generation Nevadan, and it kills me to see the land raped, abused, not for our consideration, but for an unknown entity. I ask BLM, please take a step backwards and really look what's happening. Move such projects far away from established towns and businesses and residents. Yes, they have to spend more money dropping in the power stations and running their lines, but it would certainly save towns like BLM.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, and I appreciate you watching the time. Okay, let's go on to our next speaker. Okay, Travis Centers. Is Travis on? Okay, Travis, if you would like to raise your hand. Okay, we can always come back. Okay, Lisa Ortega. Okay, you can go ahead.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello. Thanks for having the meeting and hosting. So I'm just going to say that I really wish there was a game plan, a green energy plan. I implore you, BLM, to get some kind of a green energy plan where you're guiding it for the lands in Nevada. We need a resource plan for this stuff. We have lands that are already disturbed by mining, strip mines, dumps. I mean, we can put this stuff on our roofs, community solar, churches, parking lots, stores, all of that. But we don't have a plan. And it's so much, you guys, you know the resources. Your people know the resources. And having developers out in front, I mean, I go to these, like, you know, I go out to Yellow Pine, and it's hard to take these sites one by one as you do in your process, because I know how big Yellow Pine is. And I looked at that map and I was absolutely devastated at how big these projects as a whole are and for the area. And I just think that a developer-led green industry with companies that have no desert flora experience nor any appreciation of our Mojave Desert is a shit show. And thank you. And I'm sorry I said that.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and go on to the next commenter, which is Laura Cunningham. Laura, I think you're on. If you'll use the raise the hand feature. Okay, you can go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I co-founded the Desert Conservation Group based in a Range Watch. Been Nye County resident for 20 years. I hike, ride my horse, mountain bike, and use my 4x4 in this Copper area. I have hiked across country on the Copper project site, where I have seen beautiful stands of Mojave yucca, old growth, desert, Joshua trees. I have found fossils on the soil surface. I've seen desert tortoise. I have seen the rare Parish club cholla cactus, which is like a rare plant. So I don't understand why this project isn't considered low priority. The cumulative impacts of all of these projects, Rough Hat Nye, Rough Hat Clark, Yellow Pine, Copper A's, other Sagittarius, should be considered now. I mean, I think it's really deficient. These are public lands with multiple use mandates. And if we put a 8-foot high chain link fence with barbed wire on top of all these thousands and thousands of acres for some of these developers who are from Spain or other countries, we will not have public lands for 30 years. It's like de facto virtually privatizing our public lands. So I oppose Copper A's and all of these projects. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, that ends the people that were pre-registered. So what we will do is see if there are people that have not spoken yet that would like to provide a public comment. If you can raise the hand or raise your hand, we'll go ahead and start there. Okay, if there's someone that has already spoken that would like to speak, I know, Aleda, you had 30 seconds left. So, and I saw you raise your hand after. So if you would like to raise your hand, we can go ahead and take another comment, or anybody else, if you raise their hand, we can go ahead and take another comment from you as well. Okay, I think I
Okay,
said-
so my husband's speaking now.
Okay.
Yeah,
If
I
you
just
could
like
say-
to just say that most of the comments that I've heard are opposed to this project coming in here. And I wholeheartedly agree with the fact that I don't see why we would give up our land to provide energy for someone else. But I want to read to you something here because I think it's consequential. It says here that while black surfaces of the solar panels absorb most of the sunlight that reaches them, only a fraction, around 15% of that incoming energy gets converted to electricity. The rest is returned to the environment as heat. The panels usually are darkened and make the ground cover so vast expanse of solar cells will absorb a lot of additional energy and emit it as heat affecting the climate. So we're not really helping anything. We're not helping the climate by allowing this project to come in here. And I really think that we should rethink what we're doing and let them find some other place to plant their job.
Thank you for your comment. Okay. Again, we'll go ahead and open it up. If anyone would like to use the raise hand feature, we will go ahead and call your name. I don't see anyone right now. Oh, wait, we do. Oh, Shannon Salter. Shannon, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, hi, thanks. You know, I just wanted to add that I hike in this area just like, you know, I've said with the other projects too, the Rough Hat and the Copper Rays. I hike in all these areas, and you know, I'm disappointed in myself for not being more active earlier with the Yellow Pine facility, because had I, you know, it was really pushed through during coronavirus. They didn't have public meetings there towards the end, which they didn't have to technically because it was a Fast 41 project. But they could have had virtual public meetings and they didn't. And it just wasn't, you know, the COVID was on and all kinds of struggles. And I'm really disappointed in myself for not being more active in the Yellow Pine facility first, because they'll be breaking ground soon on that. And that is going to change the character of this valley so much. And, you know, I'm just not going to even enjoy coming out here the way I always have, which is a really sad thing. And so, you know, I fear for the like effects on my mental health, and I can only imagine how it's affecting other people as well, especially like I said, the people that live in Pahrump. But I just think that if we could go back and take Yellow Pine back and say, we're not going to do this, you know, that would have been better. And now we definitely shouldn't do any more in this valley because it's just so wrong and disgusting. And I agree that like it's crazy too not to have an overarching plan, even though I could, you know, just having these things come up one at a time is just so exhausting and is such a drain on people, and it's so tiring for all of us. But yeah, we just can't have this here. And it's just ruining like the state of Southern Nevada, and it's making this not a nice place to live. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, again, we definitely have plenty of time. We keep the this going until 8 p.m. We will see if there's anyone else that has a public comment. We do. Let's see. Is it Barbara Callahan? Okay, if you want to go ahead.
Thank you. If I knew which button to push where.
You're good. Thank you. You can go ahead.
All right. I'm really curious that I have tried to find out the country that is sourcing the solar panels and the equipment and the electrical. And it seems like nobody can tell, or nobody will say, or it's not always available. What country are all this equipment being sourced from? I have to tell you, I have a real problem with supporting any country items that might be coming from a country that has little or no human rights and that support child labor. So I really would like to know these panels and et cetera, where they're coming from. What's the guarantee of the products that are in them? That's it. I could talk forever, but I'm so against this. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment. And again, I'll remind, if you do have questions, we will be answering questions up until 8 p.m. If we don't get through all the questions, we will be emailing you. But as of right now, we have some questions that we're still responding to, but please feel free to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, and you can put those questions in. Okay, anybody else? Okay, no, Kevin is not. I apologize, just 1 minute. Okay, Kevin, I think we can go ahead and unmute yours. You have your hand raised.
Yeah, I just have one comment. A lot of folks have been asking, well, what country do these solar panels come from? Originally, this application was by First Solar. That's a big solar developer company, and like 2010 or so, they were on top of the game building most of the PV projects on public and private lands. I believe they're now called Leeward or Leland Renewables, but it's the same group, and they get their solar panels, they manufacture them in Malaysia. These are not American made. These are not American factories. Maybe they've changed it. I don't know. Maybe it's different now, but for a long time, because they could utilize cheap labor, Malaysia was the source of the solar panels. These are not American made. If they are now, you should be telling us, and you should be letting us know where those solar panels are coming from. But historically, no. They went to the third world. They went for the cheap labor, which is not exactly ethical. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't.
We do have a number of people raising their hands, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the next person. We do have a phone number. So if you can, on the phone, use the *6 feature to unmute. We'll go ahead and unmute you now, and you should be able to talk. The phone number is 1-310.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, this is Linda Faye again. I just wanted to reinforce a comment that a gentleman made previously a few minutes ago. I haven't really, this is all new to me, so I haven't done a lot of research on it, but he made a very valid point about the feature that the solar panels reflect heat back into the earth, which is contributing more to global warming, which is definitely not beneficial. It's almost counterproductive. And one thing that I am aware of that I have read about is the issue of end-of-life solar panels. Apparently, there is a huge issue with lots of toxic waste. So there needs to be planning for that as well. And for BLM, I think that since we already have a project that's been given the go, why not see how things go before committing tens of thousands of acres of land into maybe who knows what? To see the environmental impact, how it affects global warming, how the companies will indeed source their water and other resources, since they can't really give a plan for that now. See how it's going to go with the projects that you already have existing, and also the plan for waste management. And I would like to say for the record, I oppose this project. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your comment. Okay, we're going to go on to the next speaker. And that would be, again, we're going to go back to Barbara Callahan. If you want to unmute. You should be able to go.
That was my mistake. I pushed the wrong button. I have nothing more to say, but thank you.
Okay, no problem. Thank you very much. We're going to go back to Aleda. Aleda, we've gone ahead and unmute you. You'll have to unmute on your side as well in the bottom left hand of your screen. You can go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just have another comment. I was able to find Rough Hat Solar, and under the business section, they're listed as hats. I'm not able to find this copper hat. So I'm curious, what other business would they be listed under? I concur with my husband. This is a bad idea for the desert. It's already hot out here. We don't need to make it hotter. So, and in general, we just really wish that this whole thing would go away. I think the BLM has other things that they can spend their time on, and they can look out for the welfare of our land. Pahrump's not going to benefit from this. If California wants it, fine, put it over there. They could certainly probably use it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for your comment. Okay, Shannon Salter, we have you raising your hand. If you want to go ahead, we're going to unmute you right now. Okay, you should be able to go.
Yeah, thanks. You know, just a couple of things. One thing on the water issue, like I know that a question was answered earlier that they might get water that is already owned by someone here, lease water rights from someone here in this valley, or get it from Las Vegas, truck it in. But there's no way they're going to truck in all that water from Las Vegas at the Yellow Pine. So for Yellow Pine NextEra Energy has contracted with Kiewit Construction to build their project, and I talked to them there. And they said that they're going to use 350,000 gallons of water per day during construction. So they're probably going to use the water in this valley. They're not going to truck in all that water from Las Vegas. And another thing is that, you know, what Linda just said was so right on, that this solar panels are also a toxic process. And so really, like, we're just replacing one toxic process with another. And I think that BLM has a really interesting opportunity, like really historic opportunity, to talk to the Department of Interior and say, like, okay, we're going to change the focus of what we do on public land. Like, we've always historically used it for energy use, but like, we don't want to destroy all the desert that's not protected. We want to keep the desert intact because it's sequestering carbon, and it is necessary for animals. It's an intact ecosystem, and it's necessary for people's like livelihoods and enjoyment of life. So the BLM should just say, we're going to prioritize distributed energy, building solar on rooftops and over parking lots. We're going to discourage it on public land because it's bad for people and it's bad for the natural world, and it's the old way of doing things. Thanks so much.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, Susie Hertz, we see that you have your hand raised. If you want to go ahead, we'll go ahead and reset the clock. Susie, if you would like to speak, you can unmute
Thank
your
you.
mic. There you
I
go.
was
Thank you.
having trouble getting my mute button visible. I did locate Copper Ray Solar on the state site. The formation Entity type is foreign limited liability company. The name of the individual legal entity is CT Corporation. The jurisdiction is Delaware. They do have an office address in Carson City. And the two noted managers or principals are located in Dallas, Texas. So that's to answer another caller's question. This is clearly not something done locally, and it's not for local interest or local benefit. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Okay, we are going to ask if anyone else has a comment. We're also going to just, again, open it up. If anyone has a question, you can go ahead and add those to the chat. We are at about 7:39. And so what we're going to do, we'll leave it open for another couple minutes. If we don't see any more questions or anyone else asking to speak, we'll do a very brief closeout, just again to wrap it up. And we will stay online until 8 o'clock. So you can always come back. We will be watching for questions that come in, and we will also be watching for anyone with raise your hand. Okay, I do have someone that just raised their hand from the phone number. We're going to go ahead and Linda, I think that's you.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay.
So I did have one question. I don't know if Copperhead is still on the call, but I'm just wondering, why was Pahrump chosen? Of all the millions of acres of desert, why was Pahrump chosen? That's my question. And just thinking, surmising about the whole situation, going back to the comment that the gentleman made about the panels being heat absorbing and casting more, contributing to global warming. So, I mean, that is totally no-no. That's totally a no-no. I mean, God designed the desert to be reflected for a reason. And if you have tens of thousands of acres of something that's going to be absorbing energy, how is that scientifically correct? Even in medical research, I'm in medical research. In medical research, before new technologies are released into the public, as you see with the vaccines, there has to be evidence-based. It has to be evidence-based before it's acceptable. So where is the evidence that we're seeing that this is acceptable for our environment and for our health and for our community? Thank you.
Thank you. I do know that you, with being on the phone, you probably do not have access to the Q&A function. There is an email address on the BLM website that you can go on and ask your questions. I think most of what you gave was a comment, but there may have been a question in there. So I just wanted to remind you that public comment and questions can come in until January 7th, 2022. And the BLM will respond to those. So I just wanted to mention that since you are on the phone. Okay. Let's see. I do not see any more raise the hands, but again, we'll give it another minute. A couple questions are coming in, but I think we'll be able to respond to those here quickly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and give it another minute or two, and then we'll do our closeout. If we do not see any more raise the hand or questions come in. So give us a minute and I will come back and we'll do a closeout. Thank you. Okay, thank you for bearing with us. I have not seen any more raise hands. Going to give it another minute. If we see any more raised hands or any more questions, again, as I've mentioned, we are responding to any questions that come in writing. We will continue to do that up until 8 p.m. If a question comes in that we have not responded to at that 8 p.m. time, we will email you. We have your email associated with your registration. Please, again, remember that you have until January 7th, 2022 to provide comments and questions. Okay, we do have another raised hand. It's Linda. So Linda, I think that is Linda on the phone. Linda, if you would like to go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, I just have one question. It's kind of related to my previous question was why was Pahrump chosen? So it kind of makes me wonder if it's a political thing. And my question now is, how are Pahrump elected officials? What's the role they're playing in this decision? That's my question. What is the role of Pahrump elected officials, and what is their position on this project? Thank you.
So Linda, we did hear your question. I want to make sure. I know that you are on the phone. So what we are going to do is we are going to type that in to the Q&A. We will respond to it, but we will also email you at the email address you provided during your registration. So you will receive a response. I want to make sure that you understand that we did hear you. Again, we are not responding to questions live, but we did want to make sure that you knew that we will send a response based on the question, why was Pahrump chosen? That question, I think, has been answered in the Q&A. I also want to mention there has been an answer to that at some point this evening, and there will be a video also posted, so you can go back and watch, and there will be a document that has all of our question and answers. So there are many ways to get it, but I am going to ensure that we get an email to you based on your registered email address. Okay. Let's see and give it another minute. Again, apologize for the slow, but I do want to make sure everyone has plenty of time to provide questions and go ahead and raise your hand if you do have another comment. Okay, not seeing any. We'll go ahead and start the closeout, but we also are, again, watching. We will be here for the next 13 or so minutes. And so we'll, again, watch, and you can always provide questions as well. Okay, let's go ahead and make sure everyone sees the website. This is the BLM website for the project. It's also in the chat feature, public comment, email. We have an email address there. So Linda, I also want to make sure you're aware that there is an email address on the BLM website where you can provide comments. There's a mailing address if you want to provide written comments, and public input period ends January 7th. I want to personally say thank you. I facilitated this meeting. There was a lot of comments. There was a lot of participation in the Q&A, and we do appreciate that. And again, it is part of the project record. With that, I will let Nicholas, the BLM field manager, give us a closeout. But again, we will still be here.
Thank you, Kenda. I appreciate everybody's input on this. It was a really good meeting. Your guys' questions, comments, all help us make better decisions as we go through these processes. I do encourage everyone, there's the opportunity to continue to comment on this project through January 7th. So if there's any other information that you think of, anything you think that would be helpful, please feel free to submit that to us to the information you see there on the screen. Again, this meeting will stay open until 8, and we'll continue to answer questions in the question and answer box. And again, thank you all for your participation. We really do appreciate it.